A land without humans? A sacred crystal in need of healing? Oh yes, fellow imps, it can only mean one thing. It's the Dark Crystal. Hello and welcome to the Bottled Imp. Exploring the realms of fantasy. And today we're going to be looking at the Dark Crystal. Now my name is Ken Boiter. You've probably watched some of my reviews already. Now this Dark Crystal is from Jim Henson and Frank Oz, and he did do another film that we did do a review of, Labyrinth. And be interesting to watch that review of ours and then come back and watch this review and just see the differences basically. Now the Dark Crystal I've got very fond memories of. It was one of those things I really loved as a kid, so a bit of spoilers there, and it was like a cornerstone of my fantasy world, my love of fantasy. So yes, I might be a bit biased in this episode. So let's find out how biased as we take a look at the Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal. What is it all about? What's its setting? Who are the characters? And why do I really think it's a good film? Okay, I will tell you. The setting is a mythical world, as you could imagine. And I think it's Thea is how you pronounce it. It was Mithria, but then after discussions, they cut it down to Thea. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's a kind of land that's barren. There's a lot of dust in this land. It's kind of a land that seems to be dying. And that's reflected in the two main races. And again, bear with me with the pronunciation. One are the mystics. That's easy to pronounce. But the other one is and I've got it written down here, the Skeksis. I can never pronounce these things. Skeksis, that's it, Skeksis. And also, it focuses on a gelfling, which is a new made-up race by Jim Henson and Frank Oz. The gelfling's name is Jen. Now, these three storylines intertwine. I was going to say interweave there, but I don't know if that's a word. Now, the Mystics, these are an ancient and wise race, and they, unfortunately, are dying off. It's their natural time. They've foreseen this time for hundreds of years. They know that their race is dying off. So consequently, there's only, I think it's 10 left. And then you get the opposite of the Mystics, which is the Skeksis. Yes. And they are cruel and they're selfish and they're bitter. And they're basically, the 7 deadly sins. Jim Henson said they were based on the 7 deadly sins. But as there's 10 of them, they've doubled up a few of the sins. So you've got those two races. Now, the mystics, they're at peace with the world. They're very into nature. They're very wise and intelligent, very spiritual. And they understand that the prophecy is that when the 3 suns align, then that's when they're going to die off. And also the Skeksis know the same prophecy, and they too are going to die off. But they want to live. They actually want to cheat death, so they're looking for a way to prolong life and be immortal, like you do. Now, the heart of this is a crystal, the Dark Crystal. And the Dark Crystal keeps good and evil in balance across this land. Now, myth has it that it was shattered at some point, and a shard of the crystal was scattered to the wind. And basically, it split. It interrupted the equilibrium. That's a big word. Equilibrium of the land, so that good became kind of less, and evil could reign across the land, and terrible things happened. The Skeksis basically dominated and controlled the land. Now, one way to prevent this from continuing is to heal the crystal, and to do that, you need to find the other shard of the crystal. And of course, that's where our hero comes in, Jen, the gelfling. He is the chosen one. He has been prophesied that he is going to unite the two races and heal the crystal. So that's your premise. That's your setting. And I love that setting. I think it's a really beautiful story, and the way that they set it up, the first sort of 20 minutes is them setting up the story, and it's really well done. I love the way that the whole concept is laid out in the film. It's never boring when they do that sort of explanation. Maybe my intro was a bit boring there, trying to explain it to you, but they film it in such a way that you're really intrigued. It really unfolds naturally. And the themes, I love the themes. There's quite a few themes going on. Now, this primarily, I would say, is aimed at kids, but there's a lot of things going on. It's quite deep. One of the themes is about our place in the world, and how do you the way that the theme is explored is through all the three main elements, the two races and Jen, especially Jen, because he kind of is our eyes, he's us, if you like. And so he knows unfortunately all of his race was wiped out by the Skeksis apart from him, and he basically is trying to discover his background, who he is, where he came from, what his parents were like, and just basically find out how he can contribute to the world. And I think, that's quite a deep thing. I mean, I'm still trying to find out what my contribution to the world is. Maybe it's the Bottled Imp. Maybe this is my gift to you. Well, and Julian as well, obviously. So I think it's very profound. You can that really resonates with everybody that watches this film. The other theme is, again, that sense of belonging. So yes, where do you fit in the world, but then where do you belong? And again, you start questioning your roots and your heritage, and do you fit in with that? And again, with the races, it's quite interesting because especially in the Skeksis, they are it's hierarchical. I can't say that word. And it basically that they're very much into order. Who's the king, who's the prince, who's the governor, and the hierarchy of and structure of their government. So again, it's where do you belong, and then what does it feel like when you're shunned, when you're thrown out from that community? How does it affect you? There's another theme, fear of the unknown. So it's fear of other cultures, as well as being banished from your own. It's fear of how do you fit into another culture. And I'd say another theme is healing. And obviously it's healing the soul, healing the crystal, the dark crystal. But actually I took that, and I think I took all this in as a kid. I don't know why, but it's really resonated. It's like healing your soul. It's like the damage that happens to you in your lifetime. It's never too late to heal yourself. So that's kind of what I took away from it. It's quite deep, I know, but it felt that sort of substantial, and it had some meaning, and that is one of the main reasons why I love this film. There was also an underlying spiritual element all the way through the film, and again, that really resonated with me. I don't know if you guys know about Joseph Campbell. He was an academic who studied lots of folklore from all over different cultures around the world, and he wanted to know, was there one folklore that every culture had? And he did manage to work out things that every culture had. And George Lucas read this, but he was, I think he might have even been a student of him, I'm not sure. But he read, there's a book, a Hero of a Thousand Faces. Totally recommend that book. Check that out. If you're into writing and storytelling, it's brilliant. And there's a common denominators that we all kind of know about. And Star Wars is actually pretty much based on that book. You have the wise person, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi, all of that. So there's certain characteristics, and again, the Dark Crystal kind of follows that. It has that mythological feel to it. Absolutely love that, and it is pretty dark in tone. It's surprising. I watched it yesterday just to refresh my memory, and I loved it. I mean, I hadn't seen it for 20 years. It was directed. It came out in 1982. And it still stood up, and all those messages, all those meanings really resonated. The seriousness, I was a bit surprised actually, but I think kids would be able to handle it, definitely. And I guess definitely now, because kids seem to be a lot more grown up nowadays than when I was a kid. So what I will say is Labyrinth, it isn't. So if you're expecting something light-hearted, it's not quite like that. The puppets, Muppets puppets, and the creatures are fantastic. The detail on them are so well done. I mean, the film took 5 years to make. They put a lot of effort into this film, and it shows a lot of care, a lot of thought. and the expressions that each character, each puppet gets, I actually forget that I was watching puppets. It was that mesmerising. The variation of the creatures is brilliant. There's a couple. I think it's a land strider. Again, a really great concept. It's like all on four legs, and it scuttles about. It's brilliant, really well done. There's these sort of beetle type creatures that are really evil. The detail is fantastic. You really believe that they're actually what they're meant to be, not just some sort of puppet, rubber and fiberglass, that kind of thing. And it was quite groundbreaking, this film, in its day. I mean, all the animatronics, all the puppeteers that were needed, all the performers inside the costumes, fantastic. And the other thing was the attention not only of detail to the characters, but also the backgrounds. So when they're walking through a wood, you'd get like little creatures scuttling away on the trees. If you've ever seen a Wallace and Gromit film, the same sort of thing. That level of care and detail in everything it's just beautiful to watch. Overall, well, you've probably guessed, yes, I absolutely adore this film. It's got everything that you want in a fantasy film. It's got strong stories, it's got strong characters, it's got a real sense of otherworldliness, yet you can identify with it. It's got all the detail that you like in it. I mean, I basically wanted to exist in that world. The scenes let you breathe in the world. So you can watch a scene. There's a beautiful scene when the Skeksis, if that's how you pronounce their name, where they're eating a meal, and you get all their characteristics and all their characters coming out in just the way they're eating the meal, and you kind of really feel like you want to be there with them, although they're evil, but you want to be there with them. So it's the sort of thing that I'd love this as a video game. Skyrim, you go around playing Skyrim, you really feel like you're there. I'd love to explore this world. That would be such a brilliant thing. In fact, there was a video game back in the day, back in the 80s. It was a text-based one, so I don't think the graphics were up to much. It's rich and varied. The storytelling, as I say, was very strong. And I just loved this underlying spirituality. But I won't spoil the ending, but it's such a beautiful ending. It really makes sense. It's not corny. And there are some twists and turns in this as well. It's not all happy. And as I say, it was one of the cornerstones of growing up from why I love fantasy. The others being Lord of the Rings, obviously, and the fighting fantasy books, where you choose your own adventure. Absolutely love those. So for me, big thumbs up. As I say, it took 5 years to make. It was a box office success, despite it was the year of E.T. as well, so that was a huge film. It cost $15 million to make. It made $40 million, so that was fantastic. And it was the 16th highest grossing film of 1982, so that just shows how well it was received. And it really has stood the test of time. It doesn't look clunky. The music is perfect. It's not one of these 80s rock score and synthesized that they started to put on fantasy films. It fits very well and it really evokes all the emotions that you want it to. And there is a sequel that's being planned, apparently. I did a bit of research. It's been on and off for years, so whether or not it actually gets made, who knows. But that's quite an exciting prospect. I would love it to be a sequel. I do want more of that world. There was a board game, apparently. There was comics that were done, and there was a couple of novels as well. So I might dip into the novels. Also, the illustrator, the concept artist. Just want to give a quick mention to him, Brian. And again, I don't know how you pronounce his name. Froud, I think, Froud. Beautiful concept art. He does have a book called The World of the Dark Crystal. Again, I might get that just to look through all of his concept art. Absolutely wonderful. And on my DVD that I watched, there was a fantastic documentary, really went in depth into the making of it. So crack open The Dark Crystal. Fantastic film. You will love it. And that is an Imp guarantee. Thank you so much for watching the Bottled Imp review of The Dark Crystal. I hope you enjoyed it. I really love this film. I totally recommend you watch it. I'd love to know your comments about it. Feel free to put comments in the comment box. Also follow us on YouTube. No, you are doing that anyway. Follow us on Facebook. That's the one. There should be a sword going across the screen telling you about that. Facebook and Twitter. So once again, go for The Dark Crystal. It will change your life.